Hi, my name is Robert O, and I'm the co-founder of 3D 2.0. So basically, I'd like to talk about disaster relief. So when you think about disaster relief, what do you usually think of? You think about, when something happens, like earthquake, tsunami happens, you donate money to Red Cross, and people are provided food, they're provided, shelter, and we provided water, and all is good. So what you continue doing is donating money, and the problem is solved. So when you think about just such donations, a lot of this is going to do social intervention. So are you really doing what you want to do, or are you making life decisions for people, for those that you're trying to help? So I've been in many different disasters, and what I realized is just sometimes when you help in a certain way, are you deciding things for people? For example, in Sri Lanka, after the tsunami, I went to visit a seaside town. And what happens is there are tons and tons of fishermen. So I asked, the people there, why is everyone a fisherman? Like, was this what happens before the tsunami? And what answer I got was, no, the government just gave every one of us ships so that we could fish and we could help ourselves. And I'm like, so what's the problem now? Oh, there's overfishing. Everyone's a fisherman, so everyone goes out and fish, and we don't even have enough fish to support a family. So when you think of making decisions for people, is something sustainable? Is it something that is convenient to you? That you just think of a very simple way of solving a problem, which is donating money, and that problem suddenly goes away. But certainly it's not in the case of the people living in these areas. So there's a lot of other examples that I can share that shows that are we actually trying to make life decisions for people by pushing them in a certain way. So there's a lot of other examples when you think about, students from Singapore, they go to maybe Cambodia, and they will help women, single moms in some of these areas to start a sewing business. They will gather people that they save from prostitution, from human trafficking, and they think, I'm giving you, a life, I'm giving you a job, I'm empowering you to make products, and you can sell and you can earn a living. So I've been to a lot of such situations where I've mentored the students. I went there on a visit place, and 6 months later or 1 year later, after the whole student program ended, I visited again, and I find that the people are not there anymore. The building, we have raised a lot of funds to buy a building to create a factory. What happened to all the people that were working there before? Then I've talked to a sweeper there that happened to just stay behind, and she said, no, most of the people that were there was not really interested in sewing. They just saw this as a way of making a living. And when the people left, that means the students left, what happens was no one taught them how to repair a sewing machine when it's broken. No one taught them how to sell the products. So we don't really have a market. We're making products, but no one's buying it. So how are we going to support ourselves after that? And frankly, we don't like sewing. So why are we doing this in the first place? So a lot of them actually went back. So they're rescued from prostitution, but they've decided that it's an easier life going back to work in the industry that they were rescued from. So I'm not saying that please don't help such people. I mean, I'm sure that some of them pay, but I think sometimes you get caught into making life decisions for people because you think that since you're not in that situation, you're smarter than them, and you're donating money to them, so you can decide what they should do. You can't support yourself, so let me give you a job and tell you what to do. So what happens if you can't help? So the principle that I sort of came up with after years and years of going through the same situation is never help. Engage, enable, empower, and connect. Because sometimes when you're helping, you must think of, are you really helping Or are you really finding the easier way of trying to achieve an objective? So when a disaster strikes, Japan tsunami, or when Haiti had an earthquake, it's not people's fault, it's nature's fault. So you can't really blame anyone, and you really feel small. You really feel that nature is really strong. No matter what kind of seawalls you build, you can't prevent an earthquake, you can't prevent tsunamis, you can't prevent hurricanes. So it's things that you can't really prevent. But what happens after? It's our responsibility. Some people are given a burden, others are given a gift. And as people living in Singapore, that you don't even see any natural disasters, I feel that we're all gifted with this gift of not requiring to endure all these disasters. So why not use your gift to lift the burdens of others? And when you think about disaster, most of the time, when I go to a disaster, you would actually think about, oh, we're going to encounter chaos. We're going to encounter a lot of chaos. And when I go to every single disaster area, when I was in Haiti, I was in Japan, there is chaos, but it's not among the survivors. Chaos is usually found among organizations or the government. And this is a picture of Ishinomaki. The people actually meet up. This is about 10 days after the tsunami. They meet up in town every morning at 8 a.m. and they decide. These are people that owns all the shops on the street, and they just decide, okay, let us combine our efforts and clean up 2 or 3 of these shops. And they plan and they go through and go ahead doing it. So it's not haphazard. They don't do it at random. They don't just clean their own store, but they actually self-organize, and then they would carry out what was being planned that day. And you find that even in places like Haiti, even in Sri Lanka, even in Indonesia, where you might not think that all these people have high level of education. No, these people are actually shop owners. They don't really have high level of education, and yet they can plan. It's because when you're faced with a situation, you basically will react to the situation or you die. So they're just reacting to what's happening. They come together and they would solve a problem. So whenever there's time of crisis, people will always shine and they would always do what's right. And I would like to share about this thing called the Wall of Revelations. So in places like Haiti or even in Indonesia, I want to talk about this Wall of Revelations. So you can see that this is, Carlos was there. He was there about a few weeks after the earthquake. And people do not have food, they don't have water, there is no access to medicine. You can't even get painkillers or an aspirin. And yet, what we found, 300 meters away, there is abundance. A few $100 million worth of medical supplies donated by people around the world, because we are good people. When we see a disaster, we would help. And we would give aid. And it will arrive in the airport, and it will sit there. So, what's wrong with the way of relief that we're doing today? Why is such things still happening? Why can't we break this barrier and get the food 300 meters away? It's so close, and yet no one's getting anything from it. It's 300 meters away. So, in 2010, Carlos was planning to do Relief 2.0 in US Enterprise, and I met up with him. And during 2011, when the tsunami happened, we actually started Relief 2.0, which is using independent units on the field, social networks and mobile technologies to solve relief in a disaster relief situation. So what we do is we run errands that save lives. It will be something very simple. When you think about when we're in a situation when we needed food, we saw that one shelter didn't have enough food, or we know that there's actually people that are not living in shelters. They're living in their own homes because there's a woman is pregnant, and there are some older people that couldn't go through the rubble to get to a shelter. However, the relief organizations are not really sending food to them because relief organizations want to be very effective and just send food to shelters. So, and they're sort of kind of far away from us. We don't have our own transport. So what we did is, we see a situation when someone informs us of this situation, we just share this information to them. We share it online, we tweet it, then it gets retweeted, and somehow, you know, the social network that was interested just sort of joined in and supported what we're doing. So you find that everybody actually have their own network. You find that there are strong ties and weak ties. I'm sure being in Singapore, you get friends, relatives, and even alumni that is interested in helping. So by just sharing what we found out, there's a lot of people that could participate in helping to get what's done. And when you think about social media and mobile technology today, anywhere that you go, the first thing that will be up is usually 3G network. So we just bring a 3G phone, we go in there and we tweet whatever problems you see, and you find that the world will respond, and the world will actually find a solution. And in our case is, we found someone else as a friend who lives near the area that has this pregnant lady and, you know, elderly living in this house. And he said, we will bring the food from the shelter to these people every day, and problem solved. So by just, you don't need to do it yourself. Sometimes when you see a problem, for what we did is we just share this problem instead of centrally controlling all this information. When there's a problem, we just share it and it gets done. So, and a lot of people would just ask, you know, why you guys, how do you guys coordinate? You're not an organization, you know, you're just a bunch of individuals. So we said, look, we're not chaotic. We coordinate through communication and not centralization. We don't hold information, we share information. So whenever we see a problem, we share it. So everybody can participate and everybody can find a solution together. So everyone can join and add value. You don't need to be an expert. So when I was in Japan, we actually have a lot of people on our Relief 2.0 Facebook page and our Facebook group. So whenever we find a problem that we need, or there is an excess cost that a situation that we want to help, we will actually put this information up. And people will actually help retweet and help spread, create awareness. And eventually, you know, we get support. And these people are not on the field. There's actually a group of people in the US, I think they're housewives, and they are just on the computer all the time. So whenever we have something that we need information, they will search the web, they put this information up on forums, and these are housewives. So their kids have gone to university, so they want support. So what they did is they just stay home, they monitor what's going on, and they tell us, oh, the situation of the radiation, because we're just afraid that, you know, will the wind carry radiation to us? There's always this danger when you're there. So they monitor weather for us, they send us information on what's going on, because on the field, you want to spend your time wisely, so you may not even have time to monitor the news and a lot of information. So they help inform us the latest happening, and they help inform us of, you know, what are the progress going on, and they help spread our message as well. So the best team is not one with the best members, but the team that makes the best, that makes its members better, and enables them to do more. So I can remember that when I was in Japan, I have a friend called Todd Chia. He runs an organization, and what happens is Todd brought a guitar along, and when he's actually in the area, he plays his guitar, and everybody was actually more enthralled, and you can see smiles on people's faces. When we delivered food, when we delivered water to people, we delivered heating oil, everybody was just like, oh, you know, heating oil is here. And when he was singing there, you can see people smiling, and even the 8 workers that were helping, they paused and they listened to the music, and everybody enjoyed it. So it doesn't mean that, you know, you're just a musician, you're useless, you can't help. anyone. Everybody has their own skill. Everybody has their own abilities, which you can contribute in your way that you enjoy and you're good at. So I see amazing people walking like regular people. So Miss Akawa, the one in the center, she owns a jeans factory in Rikuzen, Takata. And when the tsunami happens, she invited people to live in the factory. The factory was not really affected. Everybody went in there, cleaned it up, and now they have a shelter, so they live there. So what happens a few weeks after the tsunami? The people that were living there, they asked her, now we sort of need to make some income. We don't want to just come here. And she reopened the factory. So she's 70 years old and she owns a jeans factory. And she hired everyone. Everyone that was living there was hired. And they are being empowered to earn a living instead of just receiving food, receiving materials. So she's amazing. So this is Dr. Suda. He's a dentist from Ishinomaki. And when we met him for the first time, he introduced us to the local Chamber of Commerce. And what happens is again, he's 72 years old. And he said, I want to start my dental clinic. And we said, okay, how much do you need? He said, I need $250,000. That's a large amount. So I said, what's the reason of starting? He said, it's still a sense of duty because the people living around there usually come to him for, dental work done. And the nearest dentist is quite far away. So since everybody has their car destroyed, he just feels that he wants to serve the people and he needs to restart his clinic as soon as possible. And we actually helped him contact his brother, and he eventually got, his brother was also a dentist in Tokyo. And he got a loan from his brother, and the dental clinic was restarted. So even at 72 years old, he restarted his dental clinic. And he shared with us this picture. So we met him again and said, let me take a picture of you because you are a very successful story. People tend to give up after having such a big problem, and you want to restart. And you have such an inspiring story. We want to share this message with a lot of people. So we called his brother and his son along, and he brought along his wife. During his focus, when he's meeting us, all along he did tell us that his wife was lost in tsunami. And his goal was not to find his wife, but rather to have his dental clinic started so that he could help and service his community. So find a superpower, join a league of superheroes and exercise it. So there's a lot of things you can do whenever disaster happens. You don't have to be there, but there's always things going on that you can support in. So, there are different skills that everybody has. So just, if you're interested in joining us, really quick one, you always come to our website, and there's always other things you can do besides going on the field itself. So there's a difference between growing up and growing old. Because as part of us about growing up is to live your childhood dreams. You may not become a fireman or policeman, and without a shiny uniform to go places to serve others. But there's always a lot of things that you can do to live out a dream. And if you're not doing that, you're not growing up, you're growing old. So I want to talk about also the curse of exclusion and displacement. So when you think about disasters don't create refugees. This guy had his shop destroyed, and he's just scooping up mud and helping himself. So when you think about disasters, why are people living, they're being put in shelters. So firstly, in a shelter, people are being told to stay put. So when you are in a disaster, if you're a survivor, they will put you in this area and say, stay here. Don't go anywhere. We will feed you, we will clothe you. And even if people are willing to help or do anything, these organizations will say, stay here. We will provide everything for you, don't worry. So who are these survivors before? When you think of it, survivors are still doctors, they're still carpenters, they're plumbers, they're architects, they're around. So disasters destroy physical infrastructure, buildings might be destroyed and wiped out, but social structure remains. However, there's a displacement of local capacity in disaster response. When you bring in a lot of foreigners to a country, the foreigners come and build roads, the foreigners come and, provide food. They even come and cook for you in shelters. When this happens in your country, so when you think of Singapore, you bring in foreigners to work, everyone is outraged. Everyone just comes and say, why are you bringing foreigners? But when a disaster happens, why is it okay to bring in foreigners? And why are the locals not being paid if they're really helping in disaster recovery? There's always an exclusion of locals in every disaster recovery. Locals don't really participate much. So our solution is actually coming out with market support. We're going to enable entrepreneurs and instead of creating refugees. So we're creating a global marketplace of products and services from disaster area and disadvantaged communities. And we would like to actually allow people to make products, make unique and nice products to sell, to earn a living for themselves, instead of relying on just pure charity to get by. So disaster recovers with dignity, inclusion, generation of wealth and opportunities. So when you make your own products, you find that when they're selling it, what happens is the local community actually benefits from this product. Because if I am making a bag or making a knitted product, they have to buy the products from the raw materials from the community. And so when you're buying a product from them, you're not only helping that person who's making the product, you're actually helping the community as well. So from donations to purchases, from beggars to merchants, this is what we're going to try from one time to sustainability. So local innovation is actually much more, and global entrepreneurship is what we are trying to focus. We're not trying to get people to become the next Silicon Valley. We're not trying to get people to build up and, if after disaster, not to become Singapore. We are getting them to use their local innovation and compete in their own terms, because what makes you different and unique is being local to this area, and you may have special or specific culture or art that makes whatever you're doing better. So what makes us different makes us better. So join us to impact people's lives, and together we can change the world. Thank you.